How are you lads? Episode 4 of the Guinness Guru Show. Before we go any further, if you are enjoying the show, if you're watching it on YouTube, make sure you hit the thumbs up button. If you're listening on Spotify or Apple, hit that 5-star review. It just helps spread the word of the Guru across the platforms and lets other people discover the ways of the shy talk from myself and my guests. I don't really have a sponsor for this one, lads, but there's something, maybe you could call it an internal sponsor, something I want to announce / tell you lads about: the Guinness Guru Masterclass. So you can basically book yourself and your friends into a Guinness Guru Masterclass. It takes place in Walsh's Pub in Stony Batter. We have the whole pub to ourselves. You're gonna come, we're gonna learn all about pouring pints, you're gonna pour your own. I'm gonna basically teach you how to be a Guinness Guru. If you're making a trip to Dublin, this could be a perfect start to your day on the beer. More details coming soon. The Guinness Guru Masterclass. So my guest this week is the one and only, the formidable finance guy, EOIN McGEE. Basically a financial planner who's been running his own business for years, but more recently he's gotten more into the media side of things, TV, books, social media. He's got a big hit TV show on RTE called How to Be Good with Money, and then subsequently wrote a book with the same name, How to Be Good with Money. I think he wrote the book second. I wanted to get him on, ask him, how do I save money when I'm going on the beer? And a few other things. He was an absolutely unreal guest. Top bloke. Here is myself and EOIN McGEE pouring pints and talking shy. Enjoy, lads. Mr. McGEE, how are you? Nice to see you dressed casually.
I always dress casually.
Yeah, I was thinking you're going to be wearing a suit.
Oh yeah, how's it
This is
going?
Kathy, we're rolling already.
Cool.
Do you want to put this on?
Yeah.
That goes in the pocket. Sure, you're well used to getting mic'd up at this stage.
I am.
So stick that can go under the Ganzi or whatever.
Yeah.
And we'll head on inside.
This is great to get access to this, isn't it?
Isn't it? Yeah. It's one of the only pubs in town that doesn't open until 3 o'clock.
Right.
So I've been here a good few times and I know them and stuff. So they basically said like you can come in here, say 2 to 3.
Yeah.
Like because I tried to do it in regular pubs, like would you know the Gravediggers and all?
Yeah.
Try to do it in there and it's just like there's people there and they kind of trying to pour a pint. It's just a disaster. As much as it would be good crack in a busy pub.
Yeah.
It's just not.
You can't control the sound.
You need control of the environment. Yeah. So we're gonna go around.
Yeah.
We're gonna pull a pint.
Right.
And then we're gonna drink it.
Right.
And that's gonna be it.
Right. Okay. Fair
Right. So I'll show you around. I'm from Ashburn. Kat is from Blanche. So where are you?
I'm now in Salons, but I was
Salons.
originally. Well, now you'll take offence to this. It depends if it's a fight or a job interview. I'm either Blanche or Castleknock.
Well, Kat's Blanche. Kat's Blanche. So this is
No, I'm from Blanchestown technically.
Guinness Guru is the real deal. It's not prim and proper. That's why you're not in your suit for this.
No, I'm from kind of Roseland, Brompton, Delwood, down around there. The Roseland Inn, down around that. That's where I'm from.
Man of the people like myself.
Yeah, and
That's the nice part.
yeah. Actually, technically,
Posh part
the
of
address
Blanche.
is Castleknock,
Yeah.
but only because the story goes that in 1979, a
Right.
county councillor moved in on the street next to my mother and father,
Okay.
and got the address technically designated Castleknock, but it's the wrong side of the canal to be Castleknock.
Yeah. Fair enough.
So it's a fight or a job interview. It
Yeah.
depends.
So pick your glass. I'll go first. And then instead of the two of us being on top of each other,
Yeah.
I'll go first. We'll use the same tack because they actually come from different barrels.
Right.
So we'll use the right hand side. I'll
Yeah.
go first. Plonk it up. Once I'm done, you
Yeah.
can swoop in.
Okay.
Have you poured a pint
I have
before?
never poured
You've
a
never
pint in
poured a
my
pint. You'd think I'd be very good at it. I'm brutal as well. So I suppose quick tips would be, as Guinness would say, glass of 45 degree. Well, first of all, make sure it's a clean glass. You'll always
Yeah.
get a clean glass in here. Old style glass, not the new
Yeah.
style glass. Even though new style, it's out 10 years ago, I still call it the new style glass. This is at 45 degrees. Some people would say nozzle against the glass, some people wouldn't.
Yeah.
I would just go like that, easy to control it, pull it all the way down. Some people would be guilty of kind of pulling it slowly, not really sure what to do. I let the nozzle go in there, that's probably not ideal. Then up to the harp, they say. That's it. And you can come straight in if you want. So like straight down and at a good angle. Yeah. Because you'd have people kind of fapping with it, you know what I mean? And then slowly up. I'd say go a little bit more whenever you feel comfortable. Straight back up, boom, and up on the counter.
Did you see the thing on TikTok about this?
As in that's
the M21. March 21 was when that glass was made, apparently.
I don't know if that M.
2002 in there somewhere.
22.
I don't think the M stands for March. I think the M stands for a certain measurement or something. But the year, the number is the year. So generally, most of them will be sort of 19, 20, 21. But like you said,
I have a 2003 in here.
would you be able to spot it?
Yeah.
There's a 20.
Surely the 2003, the Guinness logo is like worn off it.
Yeah, the harp is gone.
Is that what you find? Sometimes you get non-branded glass.
There's Guinness draft written on it.
There's an 18.
18.
So the M is obviously not March. You're
No,
right.
unless they make every single glass in March.
March, yeah.
It's something to do with the measurement, but I'm not exactly sure. There's a page, anytime, it's like my backup, my fallback. Anytime anyone asks me any like technical stuff, I always say, just go follow All Things Guinness on Instagram.
Right.
He's like, it's just like, my stuff is just literally for the crack.
Yeah.
Going around drinking pints, self-proclaimed guru, me arse kind of thing. He's literally just info, like any question you ever had, anytime I want to try and bullshit my way out of a situation, I just message him and he says my bacon. But what would you say is your kind of local then? I know you said you've moved around a bit.
You see, I probably, if I had a local, I'm living in Salins now. I was
Salins in Kildare?
Yeah, just outside Naas.
Yeah.
So there's one or two down there. If I had to pick a local, probably be the Boar's Head.
The Boar's Head?
Yeah.
Because of Capel Street?
Because of Capel Street,
Yeah.
the office is down that direction. I like my GA. So it's a good GA pub as well. It would have its good name. And I like you, the owner.
Yeah, we went in and did a video when they brought in was it the 0-0 or something?
Yeah.
They brought in the tap and we went, he was a good character.
And
He's
then
there years, isn't he?
Yeah, he's there years. Yeah, he's a Cavan man originally, but he's Castleknock too, so he have some connections with Bridget's, which was my club originally.
Yeah. So then, what they say is if you pull it away from yourself, it's a bit slower and easier to control.
Okay.
And then if you want to be really big balls, you just pull it, but not as much. But I'm going to go forward. I'm going to go reserve today. Last video, I fucking spilled it all over the place, and there was actually people here as well. It was very embarrassing. So obviously, I see you've been following my page. We're obviously looking for that domage. I have poured enough pints on this bar to know to leave it here because there's a slant up here.
Okay.
So you go ahead. So whatever you want to do. Beautiful. I think that's perfect. I would say two. To be fair, very good. I was going to say two relatively conservatively pulled pints, but actually, I think I've learned a lesson here. You're better to go a little bit conservative than to trying to get it over. Because last time we wanted, like I get pictures sent all the time where they really don't want to spill it, so they pour it up to about here.
Yeah.
And like my thing is, if you look down, you can see the foam is going over the top. Then you're laughing.
And what's the other thing? You know the one, the first sup to the
Split
top
the G.
of the G. The split the G. Is it?
wanna
This is
try
always
it?
the different. We'll try that.
We're going to go around. We're going to face out to the window with the light. And I think those pints I think they look feckin' brilliant, to be fair. Right, at Owen's request, slanch it, we're going to try split the G. So you're trying to get the bottom of the white to land right there at the middle of the G. Some people would say split the harp and the Guinness, a little bit easier.
Split the G.
We're going to split the G.
But I think there's a trick here. We'll do something.
There is a trick, but we can talk tricks after. Slanch it.
That's brutal. Look at you.
I think I've done all right.
I got it's been said bottom of the harp, didn't we?
No, we didn't say bottom of the harp.
But
They say it's easier to tell if it's between the bottom of the harp and the top of those ends, even though you still would have been slightly off. But do you notice, see the way there's about probably 2 millimeters to work with on mine? In about 10-15 seconds,
That'll come down.
That'll actually come down.
Yeah.
And then I can be like, I did it. Do you know what I mean?
But is there not another trick that the G's aren't always on the same side? There are different levels on both sides of the glass.
Yeah, absolutely. Or, I don't know about both sides
Like
of the
it's
glass.
impossible to actually do it, because if you turn the glass around, you're wrong.
That's not a very positive attitude, is it?
No.
It's impossible. Nothing's impossible. Yeah, so you're saying your local would be the Boar's Head.
Probably, yeah, if there is, because it's McGEE matches in particular. The office is up there.
The Dubs,
Spend
I
a lot of
presume.
time. Yeah, Dubs. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm a Mead man, so I can't really get on board with that. But
Yeah,
I know I sound like a
let's
dub.
see where you go now.
Yeah.
No, but it is. I just enjoy it in there, and you're always. There's always lots of people in there, particularly the stuff I'm doing in the media. You'll often find people in there, and you're also very much left alone, which is good to enjoy your pint.
Would you get like, you'd be one of those, like there's certain lads you look at and you go, they definitely just get their head wrecked everywhere they go. Then there's other people you somehow manage to slip under the radar. What's your sort of situation?
No, you'll get stopped, you'll get helloed, but to be honest with you, I don't think I have any right at this stage. If I'm putting myself out there, I'm putting myself out there, right?
Same, yeah.
And therefore, you say hello and you give you a few minutes and you do whatever it is, and you make anybody who makes the effort to come over to you feel like it was worthwhile coming over.
Yeah.
And people are generally very respectful.
Yeah.
Right. They will very much, depending if what group you're in, who you're with, they'll leave you alone, or they might say a quick hello, or they might leave you alone, and when you go up to go to the toilet or you go to leave, there'll be a comment, and it's always good, positive stuff. So absolutely no issue.
I tend to just get like a bit, because for the first like 2 years I was doing this, I don't think I even put my name on it. It was like Guinness Gear, so everyone just be shouting Guinness, whatever. But now my name is there, so it's actually nice when people are like, "Oh, how you Dara?" Like, would people just ever shout at you like the money fella, or
the salt and pepper guy?
Salt and pepper guy.
Yeah, so it was for series 2 and 3. I used to explain everything with salt and pepper.
Fair enough.
Right, so the salt and pepper guy would be a big one, and it's funny because we did 4 series of how to be good at money, and it was only series 2 and 3 we used it, but yet people remember salt and pepper, and so you get that a bit. And that's all good, and it's all like it is genuinely. It's very good, and ultimately, like. The reason I do what I do is because we're a country that doesn't really talk about money.
Yeah.
And I'm doing everything I can to get a country to talk about money that doesn't talk about money. So
Brilliant.
I couldn't knock it then if people come towards me. And I would say it on my Instagram. People say, "Oh, I saw you. I was too embarrassed to come over and say." Just come and say hi. If you see me, come and say hi. I'm always open to having a
you
chat.
seem you're genuinely like, it's great if you find something. It's a bit like me. People say, "Are you sick of talking about Guinness?" Like, no, but I like Guinness, so it's nice to talk about it. You seem the same with talking about money. But so I suppose you label yourself as a financial planner.
Yes.
Then in this sort of realm, would you have any sort of tips for, like we've all been, I don't know, you've probably always been good at money, but I've been there, all my friends have been there through our 20s, even 30s, go out on a night out, check the bank account the next day, you're thinking, how on earth did I spend €285 last night? Any sort of advice, tips?
You have to find what works for you, right? And one of the things I would say is if you're doing big nights out like that, it's very easy when you haven't had 4 or 5 or more pints, right? To lose track of what your spending is. And I would say it's one of those times where cash in the pocket is king, okay? So you take the little pocket here and you stick your taxi fare in there, and that's locked away, and that's there, and you know it's there, and then you work away with cash, right? And I'm not into don't get into rounds, don't do it, like, come on.
You can't be saying that.
Like, absolutely not, no, absolutely not, right? So cash is king when you are feeling the money. So we spend 10 to 15% more money when we tap compared to when we use cash, okay?
And that's just because you, with the cash, you see it being handed over.
Yes, and we have a physical attachment to it. But if you think about it, if you're 2 in the morning and you're in, let's just call it as it is, you're in McDonald's, right? It's 2 in the morning and you're queuing up and you have a 10 in your pocket and you're going, will I go large? Oh, jeez, will you tenner, right? Or will I have a Sunday? No, definitely not. I'm going to be mortified if I get to the thing, right? Get to the thing and I don't have enough cash on me. Whereas if you've got your card, like, oh, large, will I get a Sunday? Do you know what I mean? And you just tap. And it was one of the fast food restaurants in the States did the thing first, that they did the research. They looked at what people spent in cash and they looked at what people spent in their card. And it's 10 to 15% more money we spend on our card than we do in cash. Now, I'm not saying we should all be living by cash, and we're far from it, but big nights out like that, cash is key.
Because you always see that as the money tips, and it's like put stuff in the envelopes and stuff like that. But yeah, that definitely makes sense. Like, just take it. Even if you're thinking, I could spend 200 quid on a night out, at least, like, you have the cash, and you might actually come back with 20, 30 quid, because you're like, it might get to the end of the night, I tend to get to it. I wouldn't go out heavily anymore, thankfully. But like, you get to the end of the night, you might check the phone. It's like 1 o'clock, and you're fairly well on. You're just thinking, if you have the brains to think, you're just kind of like, well, I'm probably as locked as I want to be.
Yeah.
You know, the place is gonna be closed in an hour.
Yeah.
Then if you whip out and you've got like 60 quid, you might go, Jesus, I could wake up with 40 quid tomorrow.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And that's the trick is when you decide at the start of the night, when you're sober, I'm taking X amount out of my bank account and putting it in my pocket.
Yeah. Sober decisions.
Now, just remember this. That's your limit, not your target. Right? You're not trying to get to 150 quid.
You're like, Jesus, I'm 60 quid left.
Shots. Like, you know what I mean? And that's really important. But there's different methods for it. And some people will just do it much better. Like some people will be, you know what, I always use my card because the grief I give myself the next morning when I do that kind of technology walk of fame and I look through all the taps that I did, right? And you're walk of shame, you're looking through it and you're going, oh Jesus, that's enough to keep yourself in check the next time you're out. For some people, but other people just lost cause. That's how much cash you have. That's your limit, not your target. Go out, enjoy your evening, stay in the rounds, do whatever it is you need to do, but don't have money being at the forefront of your head when you're on a night out. You work hard, you earn your money, and you need to enjoy it. And don't let anything taint it.
Definitely.
Like and particularly the next day, like giving yourself hell the next day because you spent X amount last night is not going to bring the money back. So just experience it, enjoy it, and move on. And if you need to change it the next time you're out, you change it the next time you're out.
Very good. Then there'd be a lot of lads. I was funny saying the cat in the way. It's probably going to be the most valuable thing I ever put out. But there's a lot of lads watching this. So I'm 29, pretty much 30. I know a lot of kind of lads my age and stuff, even like say you're mid-20s, you're paying rent. Obviously we all know rent is crazy high at the minute. And a lot of lads just seem to be stuck in that kind of paying the rent, always expecting to save a bit, you know, trying to save for the house if they can buy it, God knows when, even if it's 10 years down the line. But then it just comes to the end of the month and they just haven't saved anything. Is there basic, I'm sure you've said it a million times, but basic tips for that sort of thing?
There's two key tips, right? You're trying to save money and people need to remember if you're renting, the hope is to buy at some stage. Remember your rent, when you walk into the bank looking for your mortgage, your rent is taken into account when they're looking at what they call the ability to repay. Okay? So in simple terms, if your mortgage is €1,000 a month, when you get your mortgage it's going to be €1,000 a month, and they will want to see somewhere between 1.3 and 1.6 times that. Now, I'm not going to get too technical, but what that means is if your mortgage repayment is going to be €1,000 a month, they want to see that you've been paying rent of $1,300 to $1,600 a month. Okay, or you've been saving and paying rent of $1,300 to $1,600 a month, so that they have plenty of cover above their grand that they expect. And if your mortgage is $1,500, you need to multiply it by 1.3 or 1.6.
But so if you just have the, let's say very basic 300 grand house, you have the 30k. And you've been paying rent for whatever 3 years, and it's that 1.6. I would have thought maybe 5 years ago that was fine, but now it's even is it even more complicated? I know so many people now been paying rent for years. They make fine money. They have the deposit, but they still have an absolute. It's just probably because the lack of houses more than
and it is. It's the supply that's the issue, right? Which is driving up prices and driving up demand and doing all of that. There are a couple of calculations in there that the bank have to do. Like one of them is just 3.5 times your salary, right? So again, to keep the math simple, if you're on 50 grand and your partner's on 50 grand, that's 100 grand a year. That's €350,000. 100 grand multiplied by 3.5. Right? So that's the mortgage you're going to get. 350 grand, you put your deposit on that, that's what you're going to do, right? Now, if you're on half that, you're getting half that mortgage, right? But then the second thing they're looking at is can this person prove to us that they can afford the mortgage? And the only way you can prove it is to prove you have what they call the ability to repay is, have they been renting or have they been saving or have they been doing a combination of renting or saving, which is far in excess of what the mortgage repayment is going to be. And they get comfort from that. And then the other thing they're looking at is what skin in the game have you got? Okay, so you're putting your 10% down. Great. You've saved that 10%, you've had the discipline to do it, or you're using something like Help to Buy and you're getting a refund of your taxes. Or they start to get less attracted to it when, now they're not going to say no, but they'll start to get less attracted to it when they're looking at things like, oh, they're getting a gift from family, because what skin of their own is in the game here now? Where's the sacrifice for them to do it?
And the reason why they haven't like committed to it.
And the reason why they're looking for skin in the game is because if it all goes belly up, they want to make sure that they can sell your house from underneath you and get all their money back.
Right, fair enough.
And cover their costs, right? But it's also, there's nothing like a bit of, I put my savings into this to encourage you to make the mortgage repayments every month. But sorry, to come back to the original question, you're paying rent, you're trying to save, you're trying to get on the property ladder at some stage, or you're just trying to get ahead and save. One of the things that the big mistake people make is they get paid at the start of the month. And then they turn around and they go, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to try my best just to get through the month. I'm going to scrimp and save, right? And I'm going to do whatever I can. At the end of the month, whatever money I have left over, I'm going to save that, right? Yeah. Now, that to me is a bit like having a calorie controlled diet. What you're doing there is you're saying, I'm going to starve myself all day, and at the end of the day, I'm going to get a Big Mac, smell it, and put it away for later, right? Yeah. Like, it's absolute torture. Yeah. What you need to do when you're saving money is save money at the start of the month. The minute you get paid, put the money into savings, and then live your life guilt-free.
Well, I've been through that a million times. Luckily, like, it's not so bad now, but I've been through that a million times where, like, you do that, and then comes the end of the month and you need to book a flight or something, and it's 200-300 quid, and you dip into it, and then it's down to 100 or 200. So would you be someone who would advocate these accounts where you don't have access for like 7 days and all that stuff?
Well, no, I think what's happened there is you haven't got your balance right yet. When you're starting off with that and you're saying I'm saving 300 quid and then you find you're dipping in at 100 quid, you should have just saved 200 quid at the start of the month. And it takes trial and error to figure out what you're figuring.
You just haven't actually, you've just randomly said in your head 500 quid. Yes. You don't know you can afford to save that.
Yeah, and most people, the best way of finding out is to do it for a few months and see how it feels.
Yeah, right.
There are lots of people out there who are being paid good wages, right? They take 500 quid out and they don't even notice it, right? Yeah. Whereas the month before they took 500 out and put it into savings, and before when they weren't putting it into savings, they still spent all of their wages, right? And what happens is there's a thing called Parkinson's law, right? So Parkinson's law is if you have an hour to cut the grass, it takes an hour. If you have 3 hours to cut the grass, it takes 3 hours.
Dead right.
Right?
Yeah.
If you make 50 grand a year, you'll spend 50. If you make 100 grand a year, you'll spend 100. Okay? And what I would say is the only way to reverse Parkinson's law is to pull your savings out at the start of the month and live off the rest.
Yeah.
And if you've got any type of handle on your spending, for some people, now not for everyone, and particularly at the moment, right, but for some people what they'll find is that their life doesn't change all that much. There's just the little extra things that they don't do, because they're looking at their bank balance, a little like 2 a.m. at McDonald's, what will I buy, right? Looking at the bank balance going, I've only got that much left, no, I won't go out tonight, or I won't do this, or I won't do that, or I don't really need that, or whatever it is, because their savings has been prioritised. Yeah. But you need to do the savings as soon as you get paid.
You definitely find, like, it's like exactly like you compared it to your diet or going to the gym, it's like, even if you can just get that first like 1,000 saved, you're just like, oh no, Jesus, I'm not letting that go below the sort of 900. But if it's just constantly at where I was through for years, just constantly 0, 200, 500, great, back to 100, and it's just this loop.
But it's like starting training for anything again. Do you know what I mean? Every month you're starting from scratch again, and you've made no progress, and you feel it's worthless, and you just, what's the point? But there's another thing that people get caught out with, like you mentioned there a second ago. I dip into it because I have to pay for flights or something at the end of the month, right? Like, what are we? We're 4 or 5 months from Christmas now at this stage, right? We're 4 months really from Christmas, right? We've got September, October, November, December, right? Yeah. If you could remember exactly how much you spent last year at Christmas, right? Jeez. And let's say it was, let's just to keep the numbers around, let's say you spent €1,000 all in between nights out, work nights out, presents, all the stuff. Let's say it was 1,000. Right. You need to save 250 quid a month for the next 4 months, or else you can't afford Christmas this year.
Yeah, but then are you like putting I think the thing that gets a lot of people is like different accounts, and especially with Revolut now, lads will have about 14 different vaults all sitting there with about 2 cents in them. So would you be like, right, have your
I would say vault. Call it a Christmas vault, put 250. You need to decide what it is. Now if you don't have any clue, make it up this year. Yeah. But this year, watch how much do I spend in December.
Yeah, right.
And then on the 1st of January, you know. And you know what the lovely thing is on the 1st of January, let's say, again, to keep the math simple, it's 1,200 quid is what you spent in total. And I'm talking about everything from presents for your mammy to extra nights out, whatever you did, taxis, whatever it was. Try and figure out how much did Christmas cost, right? Yeah. And the 1st of December, it's 1,200, or 1st of January, sorry, it's 1,200 quid. Put 100 quid a month aside into a vault that says Christmas, and next year you'll get through Christmas
I think it's only people like yourself who are going to have that level of this. Be putting 100 quid in January, they go, Christmas, fuck that.
But the point is people then say, I'm broke and I don't know why I'm not getting to the end of the month. Christmas is not a surprise, like.
I know, yeah.
And I know we shouldn't, it's the sun is shining, we shouldn't be talking about Christmas at this time, but it's the same for your July holiday to wherever you go.
It's funny.
It costs you 1,200 quid to go on holidays in July. You've gone every year, bar COVID, right? You've gone every year of your adult life, bar COVID.
Yeah.
Why do you think it's not going to happen this July? And why aren't you financially prepared for it?
And have you always, like, I know I heard a story that you've decided from very young because your dad had issues with his heart and stuff like that. And what was it that you just thought about the person who sold him is...
Yeah, so the story was when I was 2 years of age, my dad had a major heart attack, quadruple bypass. When I was 6, he had 3 stents. When I was 8, he had another quintuple bypass, he had 5 of them. And he had to give up work.
Yeah.
And somebody had sold him an income protection policy. And because of that, he was able to give up work. He was able to look after himself.
Yeah.
And my dad died last December, 12 months. And what I would say is we got 28 years more out of him because someone had sold him an income protection policy.
So that was in your mind?
In my mind, that was it. And it wasn't, I was 10 when he gave up work first. I wasn't thinking about income protection when I was 10. But when I came out of college, I went working with one of the big life companies, and they happened to be the people who were paying him his income protection.
Ah, wow.
And it just clicked then. And I said, I want to do for other people what financial services did for my family and my dad. And then you start going client advising, and you're talking to clients, and you're looking after families' finances, and then you go, how do you do it bigger? And you do it bigger by books and media and TV shows, and Instagram now is the new way of doing it. And it was the same when lockdown hit first. Like when I was sitting in April 2020, like if you think about it, I had 400 followers in December 19.
Right.
Okay. December 2020, the first lockdown, the first full month of lockdown, I'm sitting there going, I'm not a doctor. I can't do anything for the country here, right?
Yeah.
And big notions, grand.
Yeah.
400 or 500 followers, right? Big notions to myself. Like, I can't do anything for the country here. I'm not a doctor.
Yeah.
I'm not a psychiatrist, and people are struggling that way. But I loads of stuff about money, and I just started finding it out on Instagram. And Instagram was a great medium for it.
Definitely.
So I was checked before I walked in, just over 101,000 followers. I'm on your coattails here now. I'm just
Yeah,
behind you, right?
catch me.
101,000 followers for a finance guy. Like, you're drinking Guinness. I'm talking about pensions. Like, you're much sexier than I am when it comes to that stuff.
You're a good looking bloke.
But it's 101,000, and it's just because I want to help people. And I know, like, loads of people, you're supposed to help people. I'm not like a saint. My point is I have some knowledge, particularly during lockdown, that people wanted to hear about. And people used the opportunity of lockdown as a financial lockdown as well, and got themselves ahead for the first time.
But like, was there ever a stage in your life that you were like, were you ever the one waking up after night out going, fucking hell, the bank? Or were you always just an absolute animal? Absolutely.
I've run my own business for the last 14 years.
Yeah.
I was in a partnership before that for a couple of years. So I've been self-employed since 2006. And I set up Prosperous in 2008. That hasn't been always plain sailing. Like, there's always been difficult times. There's always been times where you've really struggled. And I'm going to be honest with you. I think if I didn't have those times where financially it was difficult, I wouldn't be able to resonate with people sitting on the opposite side of the TV from me on the TV show or whatever it is.
So you set up just before shit hit the fan.
Just as the shit was hitting the fan. It's actually a great time to set up a business.
You would have only been, what, 26, 27?
Yeah, so I was born in 1980, so I'm 42 years of age. And I went out on my own when I was 26.
And did you ever was there ever a struggle to get people to take you seriously?
At the time, I worked for Irish Life for a while before I set up my own, and at the time I was the youngest financial advisor, is what we were called then, that was ever appointed by Irish Life. And yeah, there probably would have been times, but...
You've got like 8-year-olds coming in going, where's my usual fella?
Yeah, exactly. And you get a bit of that, but you know what? You knock that down with your knowledge. And that's the only way. They have to have confidence in what you're doing and what you're saying. And I worked probably was good for me, because it meant I had to work harder than everybody else. In my own mind, I had to work harder than everybody else, and you kind of got ahead. But also, what you'd find is, particularly you take that 80-year-old kind of coming in, who's this fella, right? Yeah. When you're communicating them in a way that they understand, and they're turning around to you and saying, nobody has ever explained it like that to me before.
Enough,
it doesn't matter what age you are.
Yeah.
And that's worked well for me.
And then from one self-employed man to another, recently self-employed. So I would have been a painter decorator up until October last year. Yeah. Gave it up, set this thing up properly. Any tips for me?
One of the things that you need to be careful, and anybody self-employed to be careful, if you're in a PAYE job and you get a pay slip once a week or once a month, believe it or not, it's easier for you to manage your money on a month-to-month basis because it's the same amount each month.
I'm not saying there's any major money coming in here, but like I'm the worst money. I wouldn't say I'm quite disciplined, so saving has always been not too bad.
Yeah.
But in terms of understanding financials and what's coming in, what's going out, tax and all, I literally, my brain just falls apart. So I've really struggled with it, to be fair.
The biggest tip I can give you, particularly as you're kind of starting out, if that's not unfair, right, as you're starting out,
that's fair.
Make sure you have a separate business account to a personal account.
I do,
right?
I am there.
And make sure you set yourself a wage that you pay yourself each week or each month.
That's already done.
And you pay yourself first.
Yeah.
Okay? Because one of the things that self-employed often do is say it's, I don't know, 300 a week, you pay yourself 200 because you need to pay such and such, and that's going to be 100 quid. And there's nothing better than pressure to put on yourself when somebody else has to be paid, right? So there's a piece of research done that humans are much better at giving their dogs medication than they are giving their own medication to themselves.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So if the vet says you need to give this to the dog twice a day, the dog's going to get it twice a day. If your GP says you need to take this twice a day, you'll usually miss a few.
Yeah.
Right? And it's the same when it comes to working for yourself. You have to pay yourself first, because if you're not getting paid, there's less pressure on you to go out and generate income.
Yeah, I think I've been guilty of not paying myself enough, because I was just like, every Friday I'll send myself pittance, and then like I always just use the thing of booking a flight as and like a flight for a personal thing. Yeah. And that could be the price of what I've paid myself on a Friday. I'm like, well, I've zero now for the weekend. So I think it's just a case of paying myself more.
Pay yourself first, get it right, make sure that's consistent. I would also say to you, particularly with your own wages each week, that needs to be automated. You can't force yourself to have to go in once a week and make the decision.
It pops. I go into the Revolut on a Friday and it's like, Mr. Dara Curran has sent you, and you're like, sound.
Thanks, Dara.
He's a good boss.
But that's one of the things, the biggest mistake people make when they work for themselves.
Yeah.
Don't get caught out with the tax man, particularly at the very start, because I don't know if you're self-employed or you're gone limited company or what. Sole trader. Okay, so your tax is due in October, November. And people think, I'm making loads of money. Yeah. And then all of a sudden,
would you just have a separate bank account and just fill that up?
Yeah. And I would say it'll be overkill for most people. Yeah. But for every 100 quid that goes into your bank account in payments, put 30 quid aside for the tax man.
Okay. Jeez, that's scary. All right.
And some people will end up at 40 or 50% if you're making loads of money. Yeah. But your what they call the effective tax rate, 30% usually covers it.
Okay.
But you don't want to get caught out with a big tax bill, and because there's nothing more. It just drives you around the bend. You just feel like, I'm working to pay the tax man. Yeah. And you should have been putting the money aside on a week-to-week basis as it was coming in. But the other thing you need to be careful of is that if you're getting your set wage, if there's money building up in the bank account, if the business account is doing well, just make sure you put some discipline in that. Make sure you're not put extra into savings. Pay yourself a bonus at the end of each month and put extra into savings, and decide yourself, you know what, I pay myself X each week. But if I have a good month, I'm going to take it out of the business, put it into my own name, and I'm going to save it and put it to one side. And just the thing about it is, for everybody, it's doing the right things regularly that have massive results long term. Yeah. And that's what you need to get your head around is the business is the business. It's separate to you. Yeah. It owes you money every week, and you need to pay yourself. And you have to do that. And then as you keep going, you will, if you start looking at that as an entity, a separate entity that owes you a wage in the same way your previous boss used to owe you a wage, well then you'll start having more respect for yourself. Brilliant. Financially is what I mean.
Brilliant. Lastly, I'm gonna ask you to give me a review of this pint.
Review? Well, I actually only think, and I sat in this chair, funny enough, I was in here on an All-Ireland Sunday day, I think it was actually. Do you remember the year, I don't know how much you're into your GA.
I'd follow along.
Do you remember the year of the replay and Bernard Brogan didn't play that day and played 2 weeks later? So he was dropped from the panel. Would have been 18.
2019.
Might have been 19.
Against Kerry. They drew with Kerry.
Yeah, and then 2 weeks later.
We were watching it in a bar in Portugal, and it was great crack.
Yeah. I don't know why Bernard came into my head there, but anyway, I was in here then, and I came in here because I had heard the pint is good, and the pint is good. Yeah. Like that's a nice pint.
And the thing is, like, that's the first. Generally, you always hear. Like, you get this as crack, like our lads walk into a pub and they'll be like, people will be like, my our lad walk into the pub and you look around and you see who's drinking, or like, I've been in pubs where it seems very rude to me, but maybe it's not, but someone will go up to the bartender will be like, is there many people drinking Guinness? Yeah. And they're like, well, yeah, like, you know what I mean? Like, and because if they say no, you're not going to drink it, but whenever I come in here and do these, that's the first pint of the day, and that tastes as good to me as it does normally.
No, that's top notch. Now, can I say 10 out of 10? Like,
no such thing.
That's my point. Like, you can't really say 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
It's funny actually, and I know I'm kind of dodging. I'll come back to it in a second. During lockdown, I don't want to get anyone. How can I get him in trouble? Dermot Connolly was doing pints at home. Do you remember these surgers and everything? So he had a business set up, and if anyone follows on Instagram knows that he was doing.
Why isn't that ringing a bell? Dermot Connolly,
Dublin footballer.
Oh yeah.
So Dermot Connolly, the Dublin footballer during lockdown, had a great business of you rented a keg for the weekend and taps, and then he was doing surger pints, and he had the little thing on top of it. And I remember me and the lads kind of get some of these in. And we were going over and buying them off Dermo, and you were drinking this when all the pubs were closed, and it was we were always like, if, and I know there's no 10, but if a proper pint is 10, these are definitely a 7 or 8, right?
That's pretty good for at home.
But I had one recently when it wasn't lockdown, and you can have access to Guinness, and it doesn't feel like a 7 or an 8 anymore.
I get
But it was just at the time. These are all right. It was deadly.
During the lockdown, the only fucking content I could make was I've seen a different way of pouring Guinness every single day, and I'd be like, big full video, set the camera up, right, I'm gonna try this one. Every time it just tastes the exact same. You've got the regular can, you're spinning it, you're putting it upside down, you got the surger, you got the nitro surge that goes on top, then they've got these little at-home machines also.
So what I would say is I think it's very hard inside Ireland anymore to get a pint of less than a 7 or 8, right? And again, it depends on the surroundings, it depends on the experience. There was a Michelin star chef, and he was asked to cook the exact same meal, right? The food was identical, right? And then they served it in a kind of a greasy spoon, crappy little side street cafe, right? Then they served it in a bistro. Now, different plates, different environment, and then they served it in a Michelin star restaurant. And people were asked to rate how good was the meal. Okay, so the food was identical.
And none of them paid for it.
None of them paid for it.
The money, the spondulics would come into my mind.
And they were all asked to rate it. And depending on where it was, the surroundings, the better the rating the food goes, right? So there's more than just the taste of a pint of Guinness that gets you the
10 out of 10 for you for avoiding the review, but we'll get to it eventually.
No, we'll give it an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10, respectable. EOIN McGEE,
thank you very
absolute
much.
Pleasure. The money man, hope you've learned something from that, lads. I definitely did.
I want to throw something out here.
Go for it.
People be familiar with how to be good at money. That's what I did there was RTE TV show, presented it for 4 years. We go in and we help individuals, couples, families, right? New show coming out, EOIN McGEE Streetwise, okay? EOIN McGEE Streetwise. It'll still be the same as how to be good at money. I still want to help individuals, couples, families, but I want them all to live on the same street. So I'm looking for 8 households who all live on the same street, the same estate, the same apartment block, and not only will I help the individuals, it's going out in RTE as well, so it's still the same thing, right? But just, we're in an unusual time right now. Things are difficult. And what I want to do is help the individuals, but then I want the individuals to help each other, and I want the street to help each other. Wow. And if you could imagine it, right? I always use the analogy or the example of a milkman, right? Or milk person, I'm sure is what I'm supposed to call them now, right? But a milkman, right? And a milkman lives at number 82, right? And we decide, you know what? If everyone in 100 houses buy their milk from him from now on, we'll all get a 20 cent a litre cheaper, and you're helping your neighbour, or whatever, and I'm making the numbers up. But the point here is let's get the community. During lockdown, we had a position where community became a big thing. We're now in a position that financially things are very difficult and very tight for a lot of people. So let's get that community to try and help each other. But let's still help the individual. So we're looking for people to apply. So what I would say is if you're watching this and you're thinking, geez, that might be a bad idea for me, or I don't know how the street's going to get involved, or I don't know how the estate or the apartment block's going to get involved, don't worry about getting others involved. If you think it's something you're into, ring Helen on 017088146 or email streetwise@indiepics.ie, INDIEPICS, or send me a DM on Instagram, and
doesn't matter age, whatever.
Doesn't matter age, and don't worry, you might be the chairman of the resident association, or you may never have spoken to your neighbours before. Come and talk to us. If you want you to be looked after, or you're the milk person, and you say, geez, I wouldn't mind selling everyone on my street, how can you help me? Come to us and let Helen and I and the team sort out how we get involved in this next year's TV show.
Brilliant. What a plug. Well done, EOIN.
Cheers. Thanks.
Thank you, EOIN McGEE. Brilliant.
What you
Enjoyed
do?
it?
Do you stick? Did you? Yeah. Very easy.
Yeah?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What were you
You're
gonna
good at it. Do you stick that out on YouTube or what you do?
Yeah, I only literally put up the first one today.
Right.